Hot Mic is brought to you by Red Wing Shoes of Fargo. Built to last. 3003 Main Avenue, Fargo. It's a game day in Fargo, and the Jackrabbits are here. We'll preview the match between NDSU and SDSU, plus Danny Freund on coming back to Grand Forks. Hot Mic starts now.
Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something.
Coach Dom Izzo, WDAY in Fargo, North Dakota.
Can you give me a layup or something?
Hot Mic. Presented by Northwestern Mutual.
That program is second to none.
On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to the They Did It Again edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra. KSFL TV, good morning, everybody, to our friends in South Dakota. KNBN in western South Dakota as well, and all parts in between at Inforum.com. Sun's out on a happy hump day. Chilly one to start. Hey, you know what? We were living well the last few days, so it's all right to get back to January temperatures here as we're already halfway through January. What are we doing? Just rolling on by. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Dom Izzo, host of said program. Thanks for making part of your day with us. Lots to get to today. It is a Bison Media Zone Wednesday. Greg Steeman will make his Bison Media Zone debut with us today. My partner in crime will be on the call tonight for the Jackrabbits and the Bison game. We're going to talk plenty of Summit League hoops coming up at about 10:30 this morning. Looking forward to that conversation with a biggie tonight. This is part of the quote-unquote flexible scheduling that the league has put in place over the last couple of years to alleviate mirror scheduling, which I think everyone knows where I stand on that. So you get a couple of games. We've got 2 men's games tonight, 1 women's game. The UND women are in Vermilion tonight. So it's better than going head-to-head, but still not great, because Saturday we're going to run full tilt into not a good scenario where the Bison women are playing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, biggest game of the year at South Dakota State. The Bison men are going to be playing at 1 o'clock here in Fargo, and I'd say the biggest game of the year to date when St. Thomas comes. So this is a nice step, but we got to take some more to get better at that. I'll save that for Friday's show, because I'm sure there'll be plenty of ammunition on that. We got a lot to get to today. You heard our show tease. We'll talk about tonight's game with the Jackrabbits and the Bison. SDSU men's basketball coach Bryan Petersen, his first year in guiding the Jackrabbits, will join us coming up in about a half hour in anticipation of the matchup tonight. I hope we have a great crowd. It's a Wednesday night. I know the normal obligations, familial obligations that are going on Wednesday, but there are no other sporting events happening around the area tonight, so you hope that you have a really, really good crowd. Bison men are a great story right now. Unbeaten in league play, coming off a buzzer-beating win they had Saturday against Omaha. The students are back, so there's no excuse, none, to not. If you're interested, to go to the game. And if you don't want to go tonight, then feel free to watch it, because we got the game on extra. I'm beyond excited about that. In these times when we are losing the best games, football we get picked over, basketball we lost to 2 pretty good ones I'd like to have done this year, the Montana State women and the Oral Roberts men's games. The fact that we get to do the Jack game, let's go. Sign me up. So plenty of that coming up later on in the show. Speaking of basketball, we're going to start there. We had 2 matchups last night where the state of Minnesota and the state of Wisconsin going head-to-head. In the NBA, which we'll show you in a second, the Wolves were playing the Bucks. Last night at Williams Arena, Big Ten matchup between Minnesota and Wisconsin, which we got another classic between the Gophers and the Badgers that played out last night. A game of runs that played out. Gophers are up 2, early second half. They extend the lead here. They got up by as many as 7 in the second half, but Wisconsin kept answering back. It's 53-52. Langston Reynolds, we saw him score. There goes off glass, makes it a 3-point Minnesota lead. Wisconsin makes a run. They're up 9. It's 71-62 till that triple from Isaac Azuma, the Cherry Minnesota product, cuts it to 4. It's a 4-point lead with 40 seconds to go. Azuma drives and scores. Now we've got a 2-point game. 3-point Wisconsin lead. Cade Tyson from Bloomington ties the game at 75. Wisconsin decides we're going to go up the floor. John Blackwell for the win at the horn. Wins it for Wisconsin. 78-75. Just an absolute gut punch for Gopher fans as Blackwell hits the game winner to give Wisconsin the victory. It's 4th in Big Ten play. I'll say this. Nico Medved's team is playing shorthanded here. They're basically playing 7 guys. They have played some highly entertaining games. They played a heart-stopper with USC. They came up short on that one on Friday. This one last night, tip your cap there. They're playing as tough as they can. This is a different – Medved can coach. I don't think there was any question about that, but seeing how this Gopher team has played, especially that they're beset by injury, they're playing hard. That was a fun game last night that goes the way of the Badgers, 78-75. Now, that's one win for the state of Wisconsin. We mentioned the other Wisconsin-Minnesota matchup was in the NBA. And here you thought would be a hammerlock for the Bucks because Anthony Edwards wasn't playing last night, out with a foot maintenance. Rudy Gobert was not playing last night because of too many technicals that he had to sit out. So that was the backstory for the game last night in Milwaukee with the Wolves coming to town. And funny thing happened after tip-off. Minnesota, who needs Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert? Because they slammed the Bucks last night. They got Julius Randle. They got Jaden McDaniels. That's a pretty good start. McDaniels cans a 3. He was 4 of 4 from three-point range. The Wolves go up by 18 in the first quarter. Randle hits a 3. Wolves are up by 22 later in the first half. Randle backing down. I mean, Milwaukee's defense left a lot to be desired. Puts the hammer down there. The Wolves are up by 31. They scored 76 points in the first half. Randle had 24 in the first half. He keeps it on in the second half with the drive and the finish. 29, 8, and 6 for Randle last night. Then we got to see the future. Yohan Beranger, the first-round pick. The tip back, I think every Wolves fan was, the only reason you're watching late is to see Beranger get in and get some run. Little alley-oop to Nas for the hammer. By the way, those Wolves jerseys are sick. Those are fantastic. This is basically all you wanted to see last night because Milwaukee provided little resistance. The Timberwolves go into Milwaukee and win by 33 without two of their best players. Without their best players, certainly. 139-106, the final. Randle goes for 29. Jaden McDaniels had 17. Yohan Beranger played 30 minutes last night. Scored 13 points on 6 of 7 from the field. Had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 4 offensive rebounds. Let's completely overreact today because he was fun to watch. And whatever the Wolves' plan is with this guy, right? If he was going to spend a little time in the G League and now he's up with the big team, we'll take it with a nice win. Here are the up-to-date standings now in the Western Conference after what went down last night. The Thunder got some payback on San Antonio. That was the NBC game last night. So you've got OKC and San Antonio sitting 1 and 2. Denver is actually tied with the Nuggets for the second-best record in the Western Conference. And lo and behold, there are the Minnesota Timberwolves, just a half game back, by the way, of both the Spurs and the Nuggets for the number 2 seed in the West. The Wolves are playing great right now, 7-3 in their last 10. and just a half game out of second. The Lakers are a game and a half back of the Wolves. They scored 80 points in the first half of their game last night. Then you have the Rockets, followed by the Suns, the Warriors, the Blazers, and the Grizzlies in the play-in there to wrap up the top 10. Good win last night. You imagine Ann will be back for their next game. Wolves are back in action coming up on Friday at Houston as they start a mini road trip here after having a little bit of run at home. This is the next 4 for the Wolves. At the Rockets Friday night on ESPN. At the Spurs Saturday. That's a tough back-to-back. Another matchup with Wemby. Then at the Jazz, Utah's not good. And then home for the Bulls a week from Thursday. So next bit of stretch here on the road. And then they've got back-to-back games with Golden State. So good playing right now. That game was donezo. If you flipped it on at about 8 o'clock, it was already over. The Wolves scoring 78 points in the first half last night. All right, last thing before we set up the show. And this was the newsy item that came down in the college football world yesterday. If you missed it, the AFCA convention, the American Football Coaches Association, wrapped up its convention in Charlotte yesterday. And the big news we were hoping to hear out of Charlotte was that there was going to be some reform for the calendar, that we were going to finally take a swing at that, something we've been talking about on this program for the last couple of weeks. That did not happen. They met in smaller committees. Now, should be worth noting that the head of the AFCA is Craig Bohl, the former North Dakota State head football coach, now Hall of Fame head coach. His number 2 is Bob Nielsen, the former head coach of the University of South Dakota. So there's 2 guys that have been around the game, certainly have been around the FCS game, and know what this division is needing or lacking. Now, they didn't address, like, moving the early signing day, or, because that's been a topic, or potentially adding spring practice windows to the summer and getting rid of spring football in that February, March, April window that we're used to, and moving that to, like, OTAs like the NFL has, because they discussed that, having that in the summer in June and potentially July. We didn't get that either. What we did get is the battle for eligibility, because we've talked about this numerous times over on guys that are playing in their 6th year of football. We got guys tonight, they're going to be in their 6th year of college basketball. Markai Strickland, NDSU's outstanding forward, is in his 6th year of collegiate basketball. And there is a overwhelming, I think, sense to get just a blanket rule that you get 5 years to play 5 years. There's no more medical hardships. There's no more redshirting. You get 5 years, and that's it. Because currently we've got the lawsuit. Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss is suing to try to get a 6-year after he didn't play for a season at Ferris State. And typically the plaintiff in this has won to get the extra year. Diego Pavia, the Vanderbilt quarterback, who was the runner-up for the Heisman this year, he petitioned because he's played 2 years at a junior college. It's not NCAA. He won that. He got to play last season. That's what's out there. Now, the lawyers would tell you, don't try and push this because we've got ongoing litigation. So the coaches said, all right, we'll go maybe the next step. And they proposed yesterday a 9-game rule that in football you would get to play 9 games, and keep your red shirt and still have 4 years of eligibility. That's as close as you can get to the 5 for 5 without actually doing it until the end of next calendar year, we're told, 26, 27. I know it's a lot of legalese there, but that's where we're at. Now, it has to be approved by the NCAA Division I board. Likely it will be. And you can anticipate then, and it's not restricted to freshmen, but that's where we're at, that you could play 9 games next season and keep your year of eligibility. Why I bring this up? Because yesterday there was a signing that we wouldn't bring up outside of the fact it does have a direct implication on North Dakota State football. TJ Finley announced yesterday that he is going to sign to play football at the University of the Incarnate Word. That's important because the Bison open up next season with UIW in San Antonio. So this guy who's quarterback very well could be the starter against the Bison in that opening game of the season. Now, that wouldn't necessarily make our show. The reason why is because this is going to be his 7th school in 7 years. TJ Finley started playing collegiate football in 2020 at LSU. He is now going to play for his 7th. You're seeing highlights from him in 3 separate schools here. So he began his collegiate career as an early enrollee January 18th, almost 6 years to the day at LSU. He played in that weird COVID fall. He started 5 games. He was teammates with Jabril Cox at LSU. That tells you how long ago he's been playing, okay? After that year, the spring of 21, he entered the portal. Announced in May of 21 he was going to go play at Auburn. Yes, he played it. You're seeing there. He played at Auburn, stayed in the SEC. He was the backup to Bo Nix. Bo Nix is playing for the Denver Broncos right now. And Bo Nix was in college forever. This guy was there. He was Bo Nix's backup. I can't wait for this game. Just the storyline alone is going to be fantastic. All right, so after that, he loses the job at Auburn for the 2022 season. He was arrested for a misdemeanor warrant for eluding police officers on 2 separate occasions while riding his motorcycle in the city of Auburn. So he loses that job, right? He got hurt as well. He only played in a couple games, so he earns a red shirt, right? Now remember, the 2020 season doesn't count either against your eligibility. May of 23, earned his degree from Auburn, and then transferred to Texas State, where you saw there, under G.J. Kinney, the former Incarnate Word head coach who coached up here against the Bison in the winter of 22. So he plays at Texas State. So now we're on school 3. Led the Bobcats to their first bowl appearance in school history. Texas State was 8-5. And then after that season, it says, okay, done there. I'm going to go in the portal again because he still had 2 years of eligibility. Goes to Western Kentucky. Won the starting job. Played against Alabama. He plays the first 2 weeks. Then he gets hurt. Season-ending leg injury in week 3. Misses the rest of the year. All right, so if I understand it right, now we got a medical hardship thrown in here. This is why they want to get rid of this stuff. So he goes to the portal for a 4th time. 2024, end of that season. Now he's going to Georgia State. He goes and plays there at Georgia State. Played in 7 games, made 6 starts, had 6 touchdowns and 7 picks. And then ends up going to the portal again. And now here he goes to UIW. So if you're keeping track, 2020 LSU, 21 and 22 at Auburn, then Texas State, then Western Kentucky, then Georgia State. Now, if I have my eligibility right on this, and this is testing it, LSU year didn't count because that was the COVID year, right? Auburn counted because he played 9 games that year. So there, let's just say that's freshman year. Then he only played 4 games, so kept that. So that's a red shirt. So we're 3 years in, but only played 1 year that counts. Okay, so you still have 3 years. The clock says you still have 3. Texas State, he played 13 games in 23. So there's sophomore year. I don't know why 24 didn't count. He only played 3 games, but if you already used one of the red shirts, so let's just say there's a red shirt there, so you still have 2 years. Georgia State last year, and then he's got 1 to go. It's unbelievable, folks. 7 years. Likely he's going to be the guy for Incarnate Word in the opener against the Bison on August the 29th. Just wild. We got a great show coming up for you here today on our Wednesday morning. Guest lineup is brought to us by Northwestern Mutual. Our guy Drew Trafton going to join us in just a few minutes. Speaking of the portal, he's got some good news for his favorite football team. We'll chat about that and getting ready for divisional round weekend. That's coming up in just a few minutes. I mentioned at 9:35, South Dakota State men's basketball coach Bryan Petersen will join us to preview the Jackrabbit matchup with the Bison tonight. And at 10 o'clock, Danny Freund back with us after a sojourn that went from Brookings to Pullman, Washington, now back to Grand Forks as he's returned to his old job as UND offensive coordinator. He will join us to chat about what the last little bit has been like in his life coming up at 10. And again, as I mentioned, it's Bison Media Zone Wednesday. Greg Steeman will join us at 10:30, 10:35-ish to get us ready for the game tonight and chat some Summer League basketball. Excited about that. So we're off and rolling. We'll take our first break. When we come back, Montana got some good news out of the portal. After losing a bunch of guys, one of their best is staying put. Hot Mike, back on a Wednesday, right after this.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
Drew Trafton joins us each and every Wednesday at 9:20-ish. Sorry, I went a little long there. That TJ Finley story is just ridiculous.
I mean, he probably just transferred again during the commercial break.
He was backing up Bo Nix.
That's so crazy.
And Bo Nix was not like...
And Bo Nix is 47 years old.
He was in there for a bit. Bo Nix is 26.
Yeah. Which
My
is
God.
younger than I actually would have pegged him for by a couple of years.
But the fact that TJ Finley was backing him up is...
Yeah, that's bonkers.
And he's still in college.
Yeah.
So that's the Bison that are going to play.
He's got football ahead of him in college.
Incarnate Word, the season opener, and that's going to be the guy likely quarterbacking. Is the guy who's...
with grandkids.
Where was he born? Finley was born March 25th, 2002.
Well.
So by the time that game comes around, he's going to be 24 years old.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah. Some NFL quarterbacks are on their second contract by then.
And the thing is, he played his first year at LSU. He was a teammate of Jabril Cox. Think about that. That seems like it was forever. And it was forever ago.
It was
6
forever
years ago.
That was,
Think about that.
That was half a dynasty ago for the Bison. Holy cow.
All right. So some nice news for FCS fans. And I was talking with Craig Haley about this, that when I was in Nashville, the last, I think, 6 Jerry Rice winners, 5 of them have moved up. 1 has not. Eli Gilman announced he's staying put, back for his senior year with Montana.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big deal, and but it oddly didn't feel like a huge issue because I mean, I think maybe part of it is if he would have moved on, like I think a large part of our fan base feels like that would have happened already, and
probably would have happened after his first year, his freshman year
exactly.
when he won the award.
Yeah, when he won the Jerry Rice, and then. But and I'm very much on the periphery of the Grizz. Don't go to a ton of games, but I've met Don Gilman, his mom. I've met a lot of the Gilman family, and they're very present in Missoula. They're very present just around that team. You can tell they really, really appreciate how the community has welcomed, Eli and Monty, Eli's brother, and they're really appreciated there, and that doesn't always matter, there are other considerations to take into account, but I think there's a mutual appreciation for just that whole situation with what he's brought to the table. And and I think the fan base stands up for him, in a lot of ways, and very, very proud to have him on the Grizzlies. He's everybody's favorite resident of Dassel, Minnesota.
The interesting part, and the Grizz have lost some guys. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat that. So the fact, I guess, that he stayed, I don't know if it makes Grizz fans feel better, because there's been some gut punches here of guys they've lost.
There have, but that core. The strength of that team this year was very clearly the offense, and the core of that Ayat. I mean, obviously Wortham is leaving because he's graduating.
Theoretically, he's out of eligibility, right?
Theoretically, until he's on incarnate.
Right.
Next year.
Right.
You've got Ayat coming back. You have Brooks Davis, who was a Jerry Rice finalist, as a receiver. Incredible talent. Like if you haven't seen Brooks Davis, like a highlight reel, like you should watch it.
It's pretty good
because he's a special player. And then bringing Gilman back, and they were really actually that game against South Dakota State. They were getting players involved that I hadn't seen get the ball yet this year. And to do that in the playoffs, that I thought that was pretty telling. That there's some guys that are going to be stepping up here that could be big players next year.
So that's the first bit of good news. Second is obviously you've got rematch like we thought. I think you've been on this train for a while that one way or the other it was going to be an NFC West team that the Seahawks were going to face in the playoffs.
And last week we talked like which teams don't you want to see, and it was like, well, I don't want to see the West again, and it wasn't because like I worry about those matchups so much as it's just like 3 times in a year, like it's just like
been down that road before. FCS football, we've done it a couple times.
Exactly, and it does feel kind of like
a little bit.
The NFC West this year is the Missouri Valley because 3 of the 4 teams left standing on that side of the bracket are from the NFC West, and these teams are very familiar with each other, and they're built to beat each other.
I will say this. I know you're not going to cry any tears over the 49ers. They got hosed here. Why is this game on Saturday makes no sense to me.
Right. Especially when you have 2 other teams
that are just sitting there. The Rams and Bears played Saturday.
You're giving an extra day of rest to, or if you just flipped it. But the number 1 seed has played on Saturday the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So, and that it's a network thing, and that's just how it
goes. Which is also intriguing to me because I would have thought Fox would have wanted Rams Bears simply the market size is a deal.
Yeah.
They play that Sunday at 5:30, huge TV audience there.
Huge TV audience.
Not that I'm saying 49ers Seahawks won't get a lot of people to watch. I was just a little surprised at that.
I mean, being a Seahawks fan, like there are those there are the drawbacks and the privileges you get as with that franchise, and one of them is they fly under the radar a lot.
Yep.
And so this is like this run. So like Vegas had them at 6 wins, 6.5 wins this year, and everybody who had watched the Seahawks play last year
hammer the over on that.
Yeah, like everyone who watched them play last year is like they won 10. They got matrixed out of the playoffs. They had just as many wins as the Rams, and then this year, their defense has been so good, so dominant. In you look at statistics and they'll surprise you, like and so it's like. That's okay. That a lot of the country doesn't pay attention to that.
So
that team.
they each won on their other's field. Obviously, the Seahawks just won a couple weeks ago in San Francisco where the 49ers look completely depleted. And then I watched the game Sunday and like, well, that's the 49er team I remember with what Purdy did and McCaffrey's going. Now, again, Kittle out that's a huge deal for them. And the Seahawks are sitting there rested. That's going to be a heck of a ball game Saturday night.
I think it could be. I don't think there's much that's going to change between their last game 2 weeks ago and this game. The Niners will say, oh, we're getting Trent Williams back, or we have Trent Williams back now. And it's like, but if you look at Pro Football Focus's grading on the offensive line when they played Seattle, their best position on their offensive line was their left tackle who was playing in place there. And the Seahawks ran for 180 yards, and they gave Christian McCaffrey nothing. And now they don't have Kittle. And I certainly expect San Francisco to score way more than 3 points. Like that just doesn't happen all that often in the NFL. But Seattle left a lot of points on the field too. They had 1st and goal from the 1 and walked away with 0 points.
Nothing. Yeah.
And they missed 2 field goals. And so there's like I feel like the game, I don't think it materially changes a ton. And as long as Seattle plays like they should, and they're prepared as they should be, like great game probably. None of these games are the same, but I could see San Francisco winning in a close game, and I could see Seattle winning in a close game. I can see Seattle winning in a blowout. I can't see San Francisco winning in a blowout.
All of this is great, but honestly, it's all going to boil down to Sam. If Darnold plays anywhere competently, the Seahawks are going to win the game.
They should, right?
Yes.
And here's the thing. In their 2 matchups with San Francisco this year, he has not thrown a touchdown pass, but He has not turned the ball over.
Yeah, and that's not what you can say about the Rams. Like how he's played against the Rams. It's not no way.
I think he turned the ball over 7 times against the Rams.
Now, granted, the way they beat the Rams the second time over, he was great at the end of the game.
He had to
awesome
flash.
at the end of the game.
Yeah.
I fully anticipate you're going to have to go through the NFC West to win this thing.
Okay,
win this week, and then you have to beat the Rams next week.
And I'm not going to say the magic word here, but if you were to draw up a path to a title, beating 2 division opponents and going to
their
stadium and winning on that field, like that would be pretty cool. It's like that. That's one of those situations where you go, that life doesn't get much better than that.
Who you have winning the other games this weekend?
Man, I don't like that Bears-Rams game to me is so intriguing because it's like that Bears team is so scary in a lot of ways.
They win late,
and their defense is like not intimidating at all.
No.
But their offense, 25 points in the fourth quarter, like that like, and they lull you into that sense of security. And then I just, at some point, I feel like that's going to bite them, you know, and the Rams, like their inconsistencies, like how much more can they play down to their opponents and win? You know, and so that the NFC side of the bracket is like, which unit do you trust the most? Is it the Rams offense? Is it the Bears offense?
I trust
Is
Stafford.
it Seattle's defense?
I trust Stafford the most. I would say. I like Rams. I like the Bills to win.
Yeah,
and I like the Patriots to win.
I kind of think it's the Bills to lose now, even though they're not the Broncos. They're not
Josh Allen's time, man.
New England.
Here it comes.
I feel like it's the Bills in the AFC.
All right, we'll come back next week and see if you're winning or not on this.
0 for 5 on guess, or 0 for 4 on guess. 0 for 5. And there are 4 games. That's how bad it's going to be.
Enjoy the games. We'll talk to you next week,
thanks.
all right? Drew Trafton joins us each and every Wednesday at 9:20. We'll break. We come back. We're ready for the biggie tonight at the Shack. The Jackrabbits are here. South Dakota State men's basketball coach Bryan Petersen will join us. Other side of the break. We're back right after this.
This is Hot Mike.
Hot Mike.
On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
Don't forget, everybody, we've got basketball coming up tonight here on WDAY Extra. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock. South Dakota State, North Dakota State from the Shack. Big one there. North Dakota State comes in at 4-0. The Jackrabbits have had a really nice start to league play as well. Looking forward to a big crowd that'll be inside the Shack for that one tonight. Really pumped to have SDSU men's basketball coach Bryan Petersen back with us on a game day, no less, so that's fantastic. Last time we had him on, he was just getting the job, so now we can chat about how the year has gone. And that's all I'll start with. Tell me how the year has gone so far.
You know, when Andrew, our SID, told me that you wanted to meet together today, kind of like flashbacks. I'm like, God, I think Don was one of my first Zoom interviews after I got the job. This is crazy. So doesn't feel that long ago, but it also feels like so long ago. I mean, it kind of goes both ways a little bit, depending on the day, but it's been going great. Obviously, you know, first year when you take over, especially in college athletics climate right now, it's pretty wild, you know, and then obviously that was the case in the spring and early part of the summer, but then you get into a routine. You know, the guys got on campus in the summer and staff was all there and their families when they finally got the Brookings. You know, we just got into a really good routine with this group, and you know, then that parlayed into a really good fall preseason. And then, but then it is kind of crazy to think that we're already in the middle of January, you know, but it's been a fun ride. Obviously, you know, we've had some ups and downs this year, but it's a really fun group to be a part of. And I'm learning a lot too. You know, I thought I knew a little bit, you know, being a previous head coach, but I've also learned a lot this year just stepping into this new role.
So I'm interested, being an assistant with this team and the guys that you had coming back, I've talked with other Division I mid-major coaches saying with this era now, we need about 9 to 10 games to figure out what kind of team we have. Was that accurate? Did you need less or more time to figure out what kind of team you had this year?
That's probably accurate. I don't know I don't know if I could put an exact number on it, like game-wise, because we played a really hard schedule too. I mean, honestly, we played some opponents that really challenged us. Now, I did think that helped us because I think we learned a lot about ourselves in November and December, just with what our strengths and weaknesses were. But I was fortunate to have quite a few guys, you know, back on our roster that were on our team last year that I've been around for at least a year, if not 2 to 3 years. So, you know, had an idea what they're capable of. But there are a lot of these dudes that are coming back are stepping into new roles, you know. So I think that was the biggest adjustment for all of us, including myself, stepping into a new role. And, my personality and how I go about my business hasn't changed, but I did change roles. And so obviously that was also adjustment probably for some of our guys that were coming back too.
So now I don't know if in your previous job, if you were in charge of scheduling, but now that you're the head coach, and I don't know if an assistant comes and say, hey, Arizona wants to play. Is you sign off on that? Because I'm assuming you in the old role, you were like talking to Hendo like, hey, we got an opportunity to play so-and-so. So how did that go when that came across your desk?
Well, that one was super late in the summer, and we were kind of still looking for that opportunity to play a Power 4 school. And honestly, like in mid-major level, we kind of need that money, and they had a big number that they were going to pay us to go down there. I didn't love the date. I didn't love Arizona. I mean, honestly, I don't think anybody knew that they were going to be this good.
Right.
And even at the end of the summer, because they had a lot of new players, a lot of freshmen. So I mean, literally it was in August. So, but we needed the game, and we were kind of desperate in it. So it's like, all right, let's do it. Because last year, and what gave me a little bit of, okay with doing it was last year we went down and played at Alabama right after Christmas, right before league play starts. We liked it. I mean, we didn't absolutely love it, but at the same time, like, it was a good opportunity for our kids. And honestly, like, we got a lot out of that game. It was really hard. Obviously, they're extremely good, but I do think we learned a lot about our team down there. And I think, honestly, even though with the defeat, we came away with a little bit of confidence in some of the things that we were able to do against, one of the best teams I've ever played against in my college career.
You also played Irvine. The Bison played them. That's a good, long team. Was there anything you took facing those other mid-majors? You played Ball State. You played Milwaukee. You played who else? One other thing I'm forgetting here that you played in the mid-major.
At UNI, they're having a heck of a year.
Wyoming.
At UNI, we were at Wyoming's good in the Mountain West. We were at Oregon.
Out of those matchups, like, what did you learn about your team, especially playing like schools like that, not necessarily like comparing yourself to Arizona?
We learned that, defensively and rebounding, I think we have a chance to be pretty good. Offensively, I think we learned a little bit as well, too, because a lot of those mid-major teams that we played were very, very good defensive teams. Irvine's always really good defensively. You already mentioned they're really long, they're athletic. They gave us some problems down in Cancun. And so we were able to learn a little bit of things that we need to probably tweak within our offense to become a little bit more efficient, and hopefully help our guys get a little bit more confidence on that side of the ball. But I do think playing those teams, we were able to defend pretty well, and we were able to rebound it pretty well against those teams. So that helped us learn that about ourselves, and hopefully gave us a little confidence going into league play.
To have guys like Seiler and Gary back, Matthew Moore's back, Wilkinson I want to get to in a second, though, what kind of foundation could you build around those guys that you knew that, okay, we've got this, that we can build the team around those guys that you knew well from last year?
Yeah, well, those kids those three that you mentioned, along with Jaden Jackson and some of our other returners, like, number one, just really high character kids. And then obviously, you mentioned those three. Those are all South Dakota kids. They know what South Dakota State men's basketball is all about. And so did our other returners too, obviously being a part of our program and throughout the recruiting process. But it starts there, with their passion for our program, our university, Brookings. They know how special a place this is. So that really helps. And then, on the court, they got experience. They played in summer league games. They played in some high-level games in non-conference play. They got real experience. So those things really helped in the process of really building this roster and putting it together going into this season.
All right, so now we're a couple weeks into league play. Is this exactly what you thought so far, that how the league would shake out through the first 3 games you guys have played?
I wish we were 3-0. Up in Grand Forks, that one stung.
Yeah.
We didn't play our best. Now you got to give credit to Coach Sather's crew. They came out and played really well and shot the ball at a really high clip. But we had chances to win that game in the second half, and we just didn't make enough winning plays. So I wish we were 3-0 going in this one, but we're not. But I do like how we're competing. I do feel like we are playing more connected on both sides of the basketball. Our offense is starting to come around a little bit too. League-wide, it's kind of what maybe I thought, like, as non-conference played out, because SDSU had a tremendous non-conference. St. Thomas has had a pretty good non-conference as well. And then all the rest of us, who knows? I think, we could be right there, but obviously we got a lot to prove. But it has kind of been a little surprising with all the close scores, in some of the games, in our first 2 weeks of league play. But we knew, obviously, with some of the roster turnovers, in our league, like, it's just the way it is a little bit. I think continuity is a big deal, but I think every year we're going to be going into it, and, there's always going to be a couple surprises within our league once we get rolling.
Tell me about Damon Wilkinson and what you've seen from him, especially since summer league play began. As a guy last year, he's backing up the big man, right? He's backing up Oscar Clough. To ask him to do more this year, how has he delivered on that from what you've asked of him?
he's done a really good job of it. Obviously, it's been a little bit of a process, honestly. Like, at the start of the year and even in our first scrimmage, I think he struggled with being the main focal point. And when I say struggle, it's just a new role. Like I said, like we were very lucky to have a lot of really good players come back on our team this year, but a lot of them are stepping into some new roles. And, and there's a process with that. And I think Damon went through that in non-conference play, and he definitely obviously had some really good games, and then he had some games that obviously, he needed to work through and learn from. But now that we're in league play, I think he's settling in a little bit more. Our team is settling in more around him, and how to, and as coaches, we're finding ways to use him a little bit better within our offense. And so I think things are starting to come around, and hopefully it can continue. I know obviously there's, some teams are going to have to do some things against him, defensively. So it'll be interesting what some league coaches decide to do. But I'm really happy this start that he's had in summer league play.
All right. Dave's team, you know it well. What have you seen from the Bison through non-conference, just on either crossover tape or just getting ready for tonight that stands out that's going to be an interesting matchup that you're looking forward to?
Well, just really well balanced. I mean, Dave's obviously had some really good teams that have been balanced, but last year, Jackson Money, really good player, a lot of really, really good shooting around him. It was kind of those two things. This year, he's got 5 to maybe 6 guys that can go get 15 or 20, so very well balanced. Offensively, I think they can shoot it, they can drive it. They got a couple guys that can post it. Obviously, Tracy Anderson's gotten off to a really, really good start here in league play and poses a threat both inside and out. But and then defensively, that's the one thing I've been asked a little bit, what's different about this NDSU team? It's probably a little bit more aggressive. I think that with their athleticism, they've made some really good decisions, in my opinion, on playing more aggressive with their personnel and forcing more turnovers, playing with, more just, trapping and whatnot. So they've been really impressive. Obviously we're going to have our hands full tonight. We're super excited about the opportunity here in Fargo. We're going to have to play really, really well and very connected to give ourselves a chance. But the Bison are off to a really good start this year.
I got to ask you a big picture question here. We were talking earlier in the show that the college football coaches approved a 9-game redshirt deal for next season. Your thought, you've been around this a bit now and dealt obviously in the junior college level, of the 5 for 5. You get 5 years to play 5 years. In basketball, how big a deal would that be just to say, okay, here you go, you got 5 years, there's no medical red shirts, there's no redshirting. This is what it's going to be.
I could go either way with it, Dom. I just want rules and just kind of things set in place for multiple years in a row. I've been at South Dakota State now for 7 years, so I was in Division I for 5 years, and I went to JUCO for 7 years. Now I'm back. I really feel like since my first year at South Dakota State, every year there's something new, like whether a portal, the NIL piece, the different rules, and I'm just looking for if they want to say 5, let's just do it, and let's not talk about it for 3 years. I just kind of want something in place, and then let's just roll with it for a few years, and that's all I care about. Because I could go either way. If somebody said, hey, it's just going to be still the same, kids get 4 years to play, 4 years of eligibility, and they can obviously still redshirt, great. If they said, hey, you get 5 years, I'm for it. We'll adjust, but I hate the what's up in there all the time. What's going to happen here? I'd really like to get things in place, and then let's work for it.
I want to ask you this as well. During recruiting wise now, when you're recruiting, let's just say high school kids, where the NIL piece, I know it's probably different from kid to kid, but how often is that? Where is that in the pecking order, Brian? How is it early in a question that they ask you? Is it depending on the kid? Can you give us inside of that when you're sitting down to recruit a player?
I would say it probably depends on the kid and the family and obviously the situation. But I would say the majority of the high school kids that we were recruiting, that's not a big piece to their decision, especially early, and it might come up, and obviously we can't run away from it. We got to have honest conversations about where that would look like for them in our program versus other programs they're considering. But I think with where we're at, the kids that we're recruiting, that's not coming up like that, for us. Now in the transfer market, it probably comes up a little sooner. But for high school kids, not so much. And hopefully that is the case, for mid-major. I think hopefully kids are, interested in South Dakota State because of what we've done in tradition, our player development, their academics they could get here. It might play a role, but hopefully it's not in their top 5 of things that they're really worried about coming out of high school.
Last thing I'll get you out of here with. I always give Richmond a hard time that no basketball coaches wear suits anymore. Are we going? Is that a donezo? Are we ever going back to that or no?
I'm totally fine with it being donezo. Now it's crazy because like I said, when I got to South Dakota State, I had to start wearing suits for every single game, and I think I bought two actually fairly nice suits. I wouldn't say they're top shelf by any means, but one of them was actually like a custom for me.
There you go.
And then COVID hit. I literally have worn it like twice for a couple wedding scents. So, I mean, that's the only thing that I would think like, it'd be kind of nice to actually get something out of this, but I am way too. I move too much. I'm totally fine with wearing some what we're wearing right now. Yeah, we don't need to go back to the suits.
The quarter zips are here to stay, is what you're telling me, right?
Yep, quarter zips, polos, and get nice slacks or whatever you want to call those that we're wearing. So
thanks so much for doing this, bud. I really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you tonight, and
we'll see you
good
tonight.
luck tonight. Okay,
Should be a great game.
Appreciate it, bud.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dom.
There he goes. Bryan Petersen joining us. South Dakota State men's basketball head coach, Jackrabbits and the Bison. Coming up tonight, you'll see it right here on WDAY Extra. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock. We'll take a break. We come back, wrap up our first hour. Danny Freund coming up in hour 2. UND OC about coming back to Grand Forks. Back on Hot Mic right after this.
This is Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Second hour, ready to rock and roll. Shortened show, of course. It's Wednesday. We'll talk some Summer League hoops with our analyst, Greg Steeman. Will join us on the Bison Media Zone. That's going to come up at 10:30 this morning. Doing a little Zoom work here. Hopefully we get Coach Freund lined up here in just a few minutes to chat about what has got to be a whirlwind last couple weeks, considering of what has gone down in college football, specifically around him, knowing full well of the situation that happened at Washington State with Jimmy Rogers moving on, take the job at Iowa State, hired Tyler Roll to be his offensive coordinator there, and looks like we got the man himself here joining us to get our second hour started. It's great to see you, bud. I don't even know. Do you know what area code or zip code or heck, whatever time zone you're in right now? Oh, I don't know if we get.
Here, can you get
there
that?
we got you now, bud. There you are.
All right, you good?
I got you, man. You hear me okay?
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
good, man.
It's good to see you, bud. How you been?
I've been great. Just got in to Grand Forks last night, so just in the offices right now, actually just getting situated. So looking forward to getting to work, man.
Well, I was going to say, do you even know what area code or time zone you're in right now?
Yeah, man, it's nice to be back in the Central Time Zone. It's missed these winters, so we're back in. Just drove the last couple days from Pullman back to Grand Forks, so looking forward to getting started.
So tell me about the last month and how, I don't know if unsettling is the right word. You describe it. Tell me the last 4 weeks and what's been like for you personally.
I mean, we obviously, like, early December kind of found out Coach Rogers took the job, and then obviously that's part of college football. And we were trying to get our guys ready to prepare to win a bowl game because we won 6 games and got to the Potato Bowl in Boise. So, just trying to finish the right way, do it for the seniors. Obviously, there's a lot of uncertainty with jobs as far as, who goes with, who's not going with, who the new coach is at Wazoo, but really just trying to put the focus on finishing the season the right way. We went to Boise for 4 days, had a great, couple weeks of prep, and had a great bowl game, got to 7 wins. I think it was the first time since Mike Leach was there that they won a bowl game. Yeah. A 7-6 record against a lot of the schedule was tough because we weren't in a conference, so you're playing some toughies, man. And we did our best to fight with 75 new players. Lost a couple close games, similar to UND. Lost 4 games by 12 total points. I'm really proud of the way we were able to, finish the season. And, the guys up there, I love those players and those relationships, had a great staff. So it was a really fun year, but now, you're moving again. And that's part of the deal in this profession. So really thrilled to be back home at UND.
When you heard Isaac had took the job at Minnesota, did you call Eric? Did he call you? How did give us the backstory of that?
Yeah, I mean, I was just we were in Florida over Christmas break visiting my parents, and Coach Schmidt gave me a call, and we talked about it. I had seen that Isaac had left, I think the day before or whatever. But yeah, I know Schmidt he was a coach when I was a player. We worked together for 5 years at UND until he left in 19, and is someone that I have a lot of respect for and trust a ton, and he's done a great job, with this program since he took over, and it's been fun to follow from afar. And when we left a couple years ago, you don't ever know if you're going to be able to have an opportunity to come back, and it's just things happen for a reason. And I think we're excited to come back and lead this program to new heights. And I think that's it's a special place for all of us that have played here. So looking forward to getting with the staff and getting to work.
Tell me about the last couple of years, what you've learned about yourself now, not only as a play caller, coach, but as a person, of your experiences you've had in Brookings and Pullman over the last 2 years.
Yeah, just really fortunate for the people I've been able to be around and the relationships that we've had in those communities. Not just me, but my family as well. It was obviously when we left 2 years ago, tough decision, and a lot goes into those decisions. But I think ultimately it was an opportunity to grow professionally and evolve and continue to push myself and put yourself in uncomfortable situations to be able to grow and learn. And I think being around a national championship program at South Dakota State with those coaches and those players, that culture was awesome to be able to continue to learn. And I think obviously it led to an opportunity at Washington State, and that was really, a really cool deal to push yourself. And as a competitor, you want to coach at the highest level. So now you're at the FBS, and what a great opportunity to coach quarterbacks and run the offense at Washington State and be a part of that tradition. And even if it was only for 1 year, this is kind of how it goes sometimes. But learned a lot about just the new era of college football. The culture of programs, how to recruit. How to be detailed in your coaching, how to install the offense with new guys. You learn a lot when you're forced to put yourself in those situations. So definitely feel like I'm coming back here with a lot more experience, and I think it's very similar to when Schmitty left in 2019, potentially to go out and get around Coach DeBoer and be around those programs. So really excited to be back and can't wait to get to work.
Washington State played 2 teams in the CFP, in Ole Miss and Oregon. So describe that of facing that level of talent. How much better did that make you as a play caller after facing those 2 teams this year?
Yeah, it was have a lot of respect for everybody on our schedule. When we went into the Ole Miss game, I think we were maybe 30-point underdogs. Yeah. So you watch the film and you try to analyze how you can attack their defense, and maybe in the SEC it's really obviously there's a ton of speed, but really the defensive lines are super impressive. So you're trying to figure out, hey, how do we get rid of the ball quickly? How do we stretch the perimeter? To make those guys have to run and get tired and wear them out. But I think as a staff and as a play caller, when you go into those situations and it's like, how do you best win this game? And our plan was, control the time of possession, snap the ball with 1-2 seconds left on the play clock. Obviously, our kids made some plays, not enough to win, but we gave Lane Kiffin a scare there. And, I think we gained a lot of confidence from that game. And then the next week we're playing Virginia. They won 11 games this year, and we had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter and just couldn't finish that one. And we have to be better there. But it was a lot of good experiences. James Madison, we were beating those guys in the fourth quarter. And, so it's just kind of tough when you can't close out those games. But I think when you're calling plays against those type of talented teams and talented coaches, it forces you to have to be more detailed in how you coach, forces you to have to put together really good plans and then make those in-game adjustments and have that feel for calling a game and being able to put your players in a good position to have success.
So when you're in SEC country, you're looking around saying, boy, it's a long way from Macomb, Illinois to now here in Oxford, Mississippi. I know you're getting ready for a football game, but did you take a minute just to look like this is SEC country I'm coaching in now?
Yeah, definitely. It was a really unique place to play. Yeah. The stadium, the aura when you go in there, the Grove. I think the turf the grass, was pristine, right? It was almost like Augusta, when you walk out on the field. But yeah, Olivia and Archie Manning, have their names all over campus, and I actually worked their camp back in the day, so I texted Archie.
That's awesome.
Back.
That's so cool.
He was kind of he was rooting for the Cougs. Actually, he was an alum of the Rebels, obviously, but he kind of wished us luck. And yeah, so it's surreal, but it's also football, man. Whatever level you're at, it's really about the kids and those relationships and trying to improve every single day to be the best you can be. And I think it was, one of the reasons I left, it was to be able to coach at that level.
Yeah.
And I think it was a very rewarding experience for my family and I in terms of just the growth that we've made. And, I think it's all timing, and I think this thing opened up at a great time, and we're thrilled to be back at UND and ready to bring this program to another level.
I can't imagine or count the number of times you and I talked about the quarterback situation. We brought up Jerry Kaminsky's name, and for fans that don't know that you intimately recruited him, work with him, now to get a chance to do this again, what's your excitement level for coming into 2026 after seeing what he did and getting ready to watch tape of what he did in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, we played some late games out there, so I watched a lot of the UND games, and a lot of those kids you care about because you recruited them, and those relationships are real, and obviously, you want your alma mater to have success. So I think, he's a kid that it was really cool to see him get his first year to start, and obviously had a great season, and I give Coach Frichte a lot of credit, man, for doing what he did with those guys, and I think, almost knocking off K-State, and then I think just the Valley in general, in terms of who you're playing against, for him to come in as a sophomore and have that type of season, I think it's only going to lead to more growth. And as we push forward here into the offseason, to be able to have that year under his belt and, lead this offseason and have it be his team. And I think, he could take a big jump next year. And obviously if the quarterback's playing at a high level, the team is going to have success. So I think, it's really, really exciting times to be able to kind of reconnect with Jerry, a kid that is from Wisconsin like myself, and we recruited a couple years ago, and I couldn't be more excited.
What stood out to you, Danny, when you were watching him on tape in high school? Obviously, Sun Prairie's an awesome high school football program. Dad is a legendary coach. That this was the prototypical quarterback that we need to get to our program.
Yeah, I think we had him up for camp. I saw him throw at the school. Accuracy is really a big thing, and when you're a quarterback, obviously. So he was always an accurate thrower. But I think more than that, his work ethic and his demeanor as a player, his competitive spirit, and his way of leadership that makes everybody around him better. The other 10 guys on the field, I think that's the secret sauce for a quarterback, and he has that kind of it factor. And you knew he was going to work to continue to get better every single day, and he loved football. So those things combined with talent, I think you're going to get a great player, and he's still on that trajectory to continue to improve. But I think you can see some of that come out. He reminds me of Mark, a little bit in terms of, Gronowski, in terms of his makeup, having coached Mark and then having been around Jerry. I think they're great leaders, they're mobile quarterbacks, and they just they're going to will their team to win, and they're winners. So I think when you have that at that position, you're going to be all right. So, recruiting him was obviously he was super successful. I was surprised he didn't have more offers, honestly, coming out of high school, and we were able to get him at UND. But, credit to him for coming here and putting in the work. And now we get to come back and have some fun.
The familiarity, I know there are a lot of new names, but there are some that are holdovers. Does that help your transition? I know you're getting ready to go here. You got meetings and getting going. Does that ease that transition a bit? It's not as jarring as starting at a brand new place?
Yeah, I think so, because those relationships are there, and you don't have to meet as many new people and as new players. So I think there's a familiarity there, and I think there's a lot of new around here too. And I'm not just you drive into campus. It is impressive what's been going on here the last couple of years in terms of facilities, resources, and just the buzz around the program. The staff here and Coach Schmidt have done an awesome job of building off of what Coach Schweigert did. So it's just I think there's a lot of pride in this place, and to be able to come back and coach at a place that you played at is special, and have another opportunity to do that, to potentially chase a national championship. That's everybody's goal, and that's what we're working towards. And it starts in January, you got to get to work to be able to do that. But really excited.
All right, I want to ask, now that you've had the taste of working in group of 6 level, and I'm infinitely curious on this, and after your time in FCS, the very top of the FCS, how far away are they from competing with group of 6 schools? You've seen it now. Is there a wide margin, or is it closer than maybe we even think?
I don't think there's a wide margin. I think the top teams in FCS, whether you put them in the group of 5, the Mountain West, the new Pac-12, MAC, whatever conference you're talking about, I think it's about development. It's about the coaching, and I think even when we went out there, a lot of our defense, and we had a great defense this year. A lot of those guys came from South Dakota State, and they were 4th or 5th year seniors, and I think the development at this level, and just the recruiting, if you do it the right way and get on the right guys and build the right culture, I think that's a big part of it. It's not that, the top dogs, I think, would do very well, in comparison. And I think you see that with the transfer portal. A lot of these guys that are transferring are having success right away. So I think, FCS football is a great brand and a great level, and it'll continue to grow.
2 last things for you, bud. I really appreciate you doing this morning. So you mentioned the late night games. Describe adjusting to that. You're used to playing at noon or 1 or 2. That consistently it's about 9 o'clock kickoff Central, which is 7 o'clock where you were. How was that adjusting to on a week-to-week basis?
It wasn't too much of an adjustment. I think the biggest thing was just like, you want to get up and compete and play the game.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times coaches, I think, you like getting up and just getting going with your day. So really, it's just the waiting around all day to, you're recruiting, you're watching games, you're doing that whole thing and just getting ready, the anticipation of playing. But yeah, I think that's, it wasn't that big of an adjustment. Obviously, like, you got some friends back home that are texting you saying, I couldn't stay up for the second half, I'm falling asleep, but I think, yeah, it was just kind of, we were in the Big Sky for a while there at UND, so we had some of those late ones, but as competitors, I mean, you'll play it anytime, anywhere,
All right, so the proposed change that came out yesterday from the AFCA was allowing red shirts, 9 games and still red shirt. This is on the pathway to do the 5 for 5. Hopefully, that's coming sometime soon. Describe that is this just a medium bridge to get to that? Hey, no more medical red shirts and no more red shirting. You get 5 years. I'm interested in your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's great because, the guys have 5 years to play for, but if they extend that, I think anytime you can help the player out and the student athlete, and obviously right now they're having a lot of opportunities to profit from, and make money from NIL. So I think, they're going to want to stay in college longer. So, I think it's a smart decision. I think for those guys that, 4 to 9 is a big jump, but haven't really put much thought into it. I've been kind of busy, but I think, anything that helps the player and potentially, allows those guys to play more is a good thing.
It's great to see you, bud. Thanks so much for making time. Get settled here. We'll do this again once you got your feet underneath you, and appreciate the time this morning, okay?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you, Dom.
Good to see you, bud. There he is. Danny Freund back in Grand Forks as UND's offensive coordinator after stops in Brookings and Pullman over the last 2 years. And as you mentioned, just got into town late last night, so the job is now in front of him. And mentioned this as well, with the amount of guys that are back, and clearly, obviously, comfortability with the quarterback will make transition a bit easier. But obviously, UND's had some portal losses. They've added some guys, and there will be some adjustment in anticipation of what spring football will be. And that goes back to something we were talking about at the top of the show, and then we'll break here to wrap up the show for this day. But the movement of getting out of the spring, to me, I think that's a no-brainer to me. If you're able to do – the NFL does as well. They go through their off-season. If the portal moves to April, right, and then you're able to figure out who's going to come back and who's leaving, then you add players in May, then you go and have spring practice with said players you just added, right? It's not like the rush to get guys in camp or in school in January, right? That you go and do this and add them They matriculate into school. They're there for the next semester, so they're able to practice in June. They do summer school, whatever, and there you go. NFL does this all the time. I'm not sure. Now, college football, without a doubt, is the second most popular sport we have in the country. I'm not sure why college football can't be modeled more like the pro game in terms of its off season. I understand they got to go to school. That's the most critical part of this, right? But if we're holding on to things that are just out of date right now. Brett Bielema, the head coach of Illinois, said it a couple days ago, and he's spot on about that. That we're clinging to things from the past it's outdated. It's time to move forward. Everything with the game is move forward. This is the next part of it. Getting the calendar right is a critical piece to this because clinging to what we had is not working anymore. All right, let's break. We come back. We'll wrap things up. Remember, we got Bison Media Zone with our guy Greg Steeman to chat some Summer League hoops coming up at 10:35. We'll wrap up the Wednesday edition of Hot Mike right after this. All right, wrapping things up here on this Wednesday morning. Again, we're out early because Bison Media Zone is coming up here in just a few minutes. Tomorrow, speaking of hoops, Jory Collins will join us, North Dakota State women's basketball head coach. Bison have the mini bye this week. They do not play until Saturday. We'll talk plenty on the showdown with South Dakota State. That's coming up tomorrow on the show. Email came in while we were visiting with Danny Freund on the latest College Insider mid-major poll. Is out. And for the first time in program history, North Dakota State is in the top 10. The Bison are at 7 in there. South Dakota State comes in at 2 in the mid-major poll. Princeton is number 1 out of the Ivy League, followed by the Jackrabbits at 2, Fairfield, Murray State, Green Bay, who's got a good team. Kayla Karius, who's the former head coach at USD, is the head coach at Green Bay. Troy is at 6. You should know Troy. That's the team that beat the Bison last year in the WNIT quarterfinals. They went on to win the WNIT last year. High Point, which is out of North Carolina. Ball State is at 9. Let's see if there's any other opponents here the Bison have played. Montana State is at 18. The Bison beat them by 30 earlier this year. Gonzaga is at 20. The Bison lost to Gonzaga earlier this year. So you've got a couple of opponents that NDSU has faced. And that, again, goes into the net ranking. So I will reiterate this again. I know it's January 14th, and they have the 2 games with the Jacks still to come. But this is important. Even if NDSU were to lose both games to the Jacks, not ideal, but if it happens, it happens. If they don't lose to any other Summit League teams, because you can't lose to the teams that are ranked in the 200s, and this is getting deep in the weeds of college basketball rankings, but it's important to know on this. If they don't, let's say they finish 14-2 in league play, and their 2 losses are to SDSU, they're not going to drop far in the net. They're just not. You can't lose to a team like Omaha at 361 or Kansas City in the 300s or UND deep in the 3. That will kill your ranking. You will plummet on that because it takes into account who you're losing to. If you're losing to a team like South Dakota State who's 50 in the latest net, that's not going to hurt. So that's why that's important going forward, because if there is the possibility you make it to the Summit League title game and maybe you lose again, you have an outside, I'll underline outside with 3 lines underneath it, outside chance to get an at-large berth to the NCAA tournament. The Summit League has done it before. I think they've done it 5 of the last 7 years. They've gotten 2 teams in. South Dakota and South Dakota State rode that for a long time. 2022, right? The Coyotes made it to the Sweet 16. The Jackrabbits still made the tournament that year. But it's not unheard of that the league to get 2 teams into the tournament. Just to file that away as we get closer to the fun part of conference play. More on that coming up on the show tomorrow, so looking forward to that. All right, before we get out of here, let's do some What to Watch. What to Watch brought to us by our friends at Northwestern Mutual. Again, don't forget, tonight, South Dakota State, North Dakota State, much more on that coming up on the BMZ here in a few minutes. Tip at 7 with Sam Getzinger, Greg Steeman, and myself, and a cast of thousands on the call. Should be a great game, hopefully a really good environment. Get out to the Shack tonight to check this out. If you can't, make sure you watch us tonight, 7 o'clock on Extra. Also going on tonight, women's hoops. North Dakota is at South Dakota tonight, 7 o'clock on Midco Sports Plus for that one, down in Vermilion. Biggie and women's hoops. Last night, great game between the Gophers and Wisconsin. Tonight, the 4th-ranked team in women's basketball, UCLA, is in Minneapolis to take on Minnesota, 7 o'clock on BTN Plus for that one between the Bruins and the Gophers. UCLA is really, really good. Also, NBA hoops tonight, Cavs and the 76ers, 2 teams in the mix of the Eastern Conference, battle it out 6 o'clock on ESPN. We got to roll. Thanks to our guest today, to Drew Trafton, to Bryan Petersen, and to Danny Freund. If you missed any of the show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. You can watch a full replay on WDAY+. The Bison Media Zone is just a few minutes away. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.